The weight of the world felt like it rested on Pedro's small shoulders. Each day began before the sun, the coolness of dawn a stark contrast to the fire of worry that burned in his chest. His father, once strong and full of laughter, was now bedridden, his cough a constant reminder of the illness that ravaged his lungs. Medicine was expensive, a luxury Pedro's meager earnings from selling fruit could barely touch. The market bustled with life, a cacophony of sights and smells that usually invigorated Pedro. But today, fear clung to him like a shadow. Fear that his father would take a turn for the worse. Fear that he wouldn't be able to earn enough. Fear that he was fighting a losing battle against fate. Pedro often found himself alone, staring at old family photos, remembering better times. The burden of caring for his father was heavy, but Pedro bore it with a resilience beyond his years. Late nights were spent working, his small hands blistered and tired, yet he never complained. Determination was etched into his young face, a resolve to keep going no matter the cost. Pedro's heart ached with the weight of responsibility, a child forced to grow up too soon. The stack of unpaid bills grew taller each day, a constant reminder of their dire situation. He watched other children play, their laughter a stark contrast to his own silent struggles. As Pedro maneuvered his cart through the crowd, a scream pierced the air. A little girl, her eyes wide with terror, stood frozen in the path of a speeding car. The driver, oblivious or simply careless, barreled down the narrow street. Time seemed to slow down. Pedro's instincts took over. Without a thought, he lunged forward, scooping the girl into his arms and jumping back just as the car roared past, a metal blur that missed them by inches.
I have to keep going, for my father.
Pedro's heart ached with the weight of responsibility, a child forced to grow up too soon. The little girl, trembling but unharmed, clung to Pedro. Her father, his face ashen with fear, rushed to their side.
Thank you,
He stammered, his voice thick with emotion. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of bills, offering it to Pedro.
No, I can't.
Pedro instinctively shook his head, his heart pounding with the weight of his decision. He hadn't saved the girl for a reward. He looked at the man, his eyes pleading, torn between pride and desperation.
My father, he's very sick, he needs medicine.
He couldn't offer money, couldn't promise anything but gratitude. All he had was the desperation of a son who would move mountains for his father. The man, whose name Pedro would soon learn was Eduardo, studied the young boy. He saw the fear in his eyes, but also the unwavering love and determination. It was a look Eduardo recognized, a reflection of his own past struggles. He placed a hand on Pedro's shoulder.
Don't worry, I will help your father.
Pedro's heart was heavy, the weight of his father's illness pressing down on him. He thought of the nights spent by his father's bedside, the fear of losing him. But in that moment, he found a resolve he didn't know he had.
I will do whatever it takes to save him.
Eduardo nodded, understanding the depth of Pedro's courage. Together they would face the challenges ahead, united by a moment of courage. True to his word, Eduardo, a successful businessman, arranged for a team of doctors to visit Pedro's humble home. The small, cramped space, usually filled with the aroma of his father's cooking, now held the sterile scent of antiseptic and the quiet murmur of medical professionals. Pedro watched, a mix of hope and disbelief swirling within him as the doctors examined his father. They spoke in hushed tones, their faces serious but kind. When they were finished, they assured Pedro that his father would receive the best care possible. Eduardo had arranged for everything, ensuring that Pedro's father would have access to the best medical treatment available.
There's more,
Eduardo said, drawing Pedro aside. He spoke of a prestigious school, a place where Pedro could receive a quality education, a chance to escape the cycle of poverty. It was an offer that took Pedro's breath away. For a boy who had grown up in the shadow of financial hardship, the prospect of attending such a school was unimaginable. To dream of a brighter future for himself, a future where he could provide for his father, was something he had barely allowed himself to imagine. This opportunity meant more than just an education. It was a lifeline, a chance to break free from the shackles of poverty that had bound his family for generations. It was a chance to rewrite his destiny, to transform his life and his father's life forever. The significance of this offer was profound. It was a beacon of hope in their otherwise bleak existence. Pedro understood that this was not just about him. It was about lifting his entire family out of poverty, about giving his father the peace of mind that his son would have a better future.
I don't know what to say.
The weight on Pedro's shoulders didn't disappear overnight, but it became lighter, the edges softened by hope. His father, under the care of skilled doctors and with access to proper medication, began to improve. The gift of healing, a charitable initiative by the local community, provided the necessary funds for his treatment. The cough that had racked his body slowly subsided, replaced by a newfound strength in his voice as he spoke of the future, a future he could now envision. This gift not only healed his body but also rekindled his spirit. Pedro threw himself into his studies at the new school, driven by the hope that the gift of healing had instilled in his family. It was a world away from the life he knew, filled with gleaming hallways, vast libraries, and students who spoke of summer vacations and expensive hobbies. He felt out of place, his clothes threadbare, his shoes scuffed. But the fire in his heart, the burning desire to learn, to make something of himself, pushed him forward.
I can do this, for my father.
He excelled in his classes, his thirst for knowledge evident in every assignment, every question he asked. He learned about history, about science, about worlds far beyond the poverty-stricken streets he called home. And slowly, he began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could belong in this world too.
I will make you proud, Dad.
The bond between Pedro and his father grew stronger. They spent more time together, cherishing each moment, knowing how close they had come to losing it all. The community's support was unwavering. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers came together, showing that compassion and unity could bring about real change. Pedro's father, once frail and despondent, now laughed and shared stories at the dinner table. The gift of healing had not only mended his body, but also restored the joy in their home. Pedro's determination grew with each passing day. The healing of his father fueled his own journey, pushing him to strive for excellence in everything he did. And as Pedro began to achieve his dreams, the entire community celebrated, knowing that their collective effort had made a profound difference.
Thank you, everyone. We couldn't have done it without you.
The school, a place of privilege and opportunity, was both intimidating and exhilarating. The other students, their lives a tapestry woven with wealth and comfort, seemed like creatures from another planet.
They spoke of things I could only dream of, their biggest worries revolving around exams and social gatherings.
He kept to himself, his head buried in his books, his mind a sponge soaking up knowledge. The classrooms, with their polished desks and interactive whiteboards, were a far cry from the crowded, dimly lit room where he used to help younger children with their lessons. But the desire to learn, the spark of curiosity, that was universal.
There were moments of awkwardness, of feeling like an outsider peering into a world I didn't belong to. I noticed the curious stares, the whispers that stopped when I looked their way.
He knew they saw his worn-out clothes, the way he carried himself with a quiet humility that spoke of hardship, but he refused to let their judgment define him. He had a purpose, a drive that went beyond the superficialities of wealth and status. Opportunities began to unfold, scholarships and accolades recognizing his hard work and dedication. He found himself participating in events he had only heard of, like science fairs and academic competitions. The library became his sanctuary, a place where he could explore new worlds and ideas. Slowly, he began to make friends, finding kindred spirits who shared his passion for learning. Mentors emerged, guiding him and opening doors to new possibilities. The new world that unfolded was filled with challenges, but also with endless opportunities and hope. He attended prestigious events, shaking hands with influential figures, and receiving recognition for his achievements. Collaborative projects and group discussions became a new norm, where he often found himself leading the team. He delved into new technologies, experimenting in labs and pushing the boundaries of innovation, traveling for academic conferences, presenting his research, and networking with peers became part of his journey. Reflecting on his achievements, he realized how far he had come, smiling with pride at the wall of accolades that marked his journey. The whispers continued, a constant hum in the background of Pedro's new life. He knew they talked about him, speculated about his past, his family, his presence at a school that seemed so out of reach for someone like him. He was a curiosity, an anomaly in their perfectly manicured world. There were times when the weight of their gaze, the unspoken questions in their eyes, threatened to crush him. The academic expectations were another barrier, the coursework more challenging than anything he had faced before. Extracurricular activities felt like exclusive clubs, where he was always the outsider looking in. He would retreat to the library, seeking solace in the company of books, the written word a comfort in its silence. He devoured stories of triumph over adversity, of ordinary people achieving extraordinary things. One day, a group of students approached him. He recognized them, the popular ones, the ones who seemed to effortlessly glide through the hallways, their laughter echoing off the polished floors. He braced himself for their taunts, their thinly veiled disdain. But what he saw in their eyes surprised him. It wasn't mockery, but curiosity, a flicker of something akin to respect. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope, a possibility of breaking through the walls of privilege. Section 7, A Bridge of Understanding.
We heard about your father, one of the students said, his voice surprisingly gentle, and what you did to save that little girl.
The words hung in the air, breaking down the invisible barrier that had separated them. Pedro realized they had been watching him, not with judgment, but with a newfound awareness. They asked him questions about his life, his family, his struggles. He hesitated at first, unsure of how to bridge the gap between their worlds. But there was a sincerity in their eyes, a genuine desire to understand, that disarmed him. He spoke of his father's illness, the crushing weight of responsibility, the fear that had haunted him. As he spoke, he saw their faces change. The indifference, the casual cruelty that often masked their own insecurities, melted away, replaced by empathy, a dawning realization of a world far removed from their own privileged existence. For the first time, Pedro saw them not as obstacles but as potential allies, their wealth and status fading in the face of shared humanity. They began to share their own stories, moments of vulnerability and compassion. Laughter and tears flowed freely, creating a tapestry of connection. In that moment, Pedro felt a profound sense of belonging, a bridge of understanding that spanned their differences and united them in their shared humanity. One student spoke of losing a sibling, another of battling anxiety. Each story added a new thread to the growing tapestry of empathy. They found solace in their shared experiences, realizing that pain and struggle were universal. Together, they brainstormed ways to support each other, creating a network of care and understanding. This newfound unity transformed their interactions, making their bonds stronger and more genuine. They celebrated each other's victories, no matter how small, and stood by each other in times of need. Pedro felt empowered, knowing he was no longer alone in his journey. The bridge of understanding they built was not just a momentary connection, but a lasting foundation for their future. Section 8. Echoes of the Past. Life took on a new rhythm. Pedro excelled in his studies, his mind sharp, his determination fueled by a desire to honor the sacrifices that had been made for him. His father's health continued to improve, his laughter returning, filling their small home with a joy that had been absent for far too long.
Eduardo became a constant presence in their lives, a mentor to Pedro, a friend to his father. He would often visit, bringing news of the business world, sharing stories of his own journey from humble beginnings to success. Pedro listened intently, captivated by Eduardo's tales, recognizing a kindred spirit, a shared history of resilience.
One evening, as they sat together sharing a simple meal, Pedro found himself asking about Eduardo's past. There was a sadness in Eduardo's eyes as he spoke of a childhood marked by poverty, of dreams deferred, of a family fractured by hardship. Pedro listened, his heart aching with a strange familiarity, as if Eduardo's story was a faded photograph of his own family's past. Eduardo recounted the days when he had to work as a child to support his family, missing out on school and the carefree days of youth. He spoke of the nights his family went to bed hungry, the constant worry etched on his parents' faces, and the hope that one day things would change. It was these memories that fueled Eduardo's drive to succeed, a promise he made to himself to never let his family suffer again. Pedro felt a renewed sense of purpose, understanding that the echoes of the past were not just memories, but the very foundation of their present actions. He realized that their histories were intertwined, each struggle and triumph shaping who they had become. Eduardo's stories were not just tales of hardship, but lessons in resilience, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Pedro found inspiration in these reflections. understanding that the past was a guide, illuminating the path to their future. Section 9. Unlocking Family Secrets. Eduardo's story ignited a spark in Pedro, a yearning to uncover the missing pieces of his own family's history. He had always known his father as a hardworking man, a loving parent who had sacrificed everything for his son. But the details of his past, the stories that shaped him, remained shrouded in mystery. He approached his father cautiously, his questions tentative at first.
His father, his gaze distant, spoke of a brother estranged for years, a rift caused by misunderstandings, fueled by pride and the bitterness of hard times. The words tumbled out, confessions whispered in the quiet of their small home, revealing a past filled with heartache and regret. He revealed an old letter, one he had kept hidden for years, filled with words of apology and longing from his estranged brother.
Pedro listened, his heart heavy with the weight of his family's unspoken history. He saw the pain in his father's eyes, the longing for a connection lost, a bond broken by time and circumstance. And in that moment, he knew he had to do something. He had to find his uncle, to bridge the gap that had separated them for far too long. As Pedro delved deeper, he found old letters, filled with words of love and regret, revealing the depth of the bond that once existed. He uncovered hidden family secrets, heirlooms that told stories of a time when the family was whole and happy. The revelations brought them closer, healing old wounds and forging a new path forward. With a renewed sense of purpose, Pedro set out to find his uncle, determined to reunite his family and mend the broken ties. And when he finally found his uncle, the reunion was filled with tears, hugs, and the promise of a new beginning for their family.